In that late Cretaceous epoch filled with wildness and ruthless hunting, the value of life always seemed to be rigidly defined by body size and predatory instincts. However, when the final ray of the sunset was completely swallowed by the horizon, and a canopy of stars quietly lit up in the boundless night sky, another world was born. Within this realm constructed of darkness and tranquility, there existed a colossal being that transcended all survival logic of predators, a near-miraculous creature. Tonight, beside the softly flickering hearth, let us step into its true life along with this story that requires no effort to remember. This is the life of the Ankylosaurus, a titanosaurian sauropod possessing irregular osteoderms on its back, a gentle life that silently guarded the serenity in the dark night. Perhaps in the cold fossil measurements of modern geologists, it is merely a sequence of temperatureless fossil specimens representing ultimate weight and astonishing length. But in that forest of tens of millions of years ago, when the Ankylosaurus slowly halted its steps beneath the night shroud and became one with all things, the world sank into peace because of it. Its back, covered with rugged ridges, was romantically described in stories as a small nest that could catch falling leaves and pine cones, hiding nature's gentlest secret. Carrying a blanket of soft leaves, it stood motionless beneath the starry canopy, letting the wind whisper in its ears, radiating a stoic natural aura and the fragrance of the soil. That silence carried not a single shred of defense or violence. Instead, it was like a deep whisper from the ancient earth, instantly smoothing away all the tension in the air. At this very moment, the chases and clamor of the day have drifted away with the geothermal heat, and the distant cycad forests sway gently in the breeze, wafting the subtle fragrance of greenery. In the long night that follows, there are no painful struggles forced by survival, nor any ruthless mockeries of fate at critical junctures. There is only its tidal-like, steady rhythm of life, and a highly cinematic ancient dreamscape that allows your soul to loosen completely. The first rift that pushed the fate of the Ankylosaurus toward ultimate solitude and peace actually occurred during a highly unusual and unsettling twilight. At that time, morbid, dark purple clouds rolled across the sky like dried blood, and a superstorm rarely seen in a century was frantically brewing at the edge of the forest. The air was thick with the pungent scent of sulfur and a suffocating barometric pressure, and herds of herbivorous dinosaurs were in a state of near-frantic panic. They trampled one another and roared madly at the narrow mouth of the canyon, losing their final sanity to contest even a fraction of living space to escape the impending disaster. Yet the Ankylosaurus, a giant beast that had already reached adulthood and possessed a size surpassing the vast majority of its peers on the plain, stubbornly remained at the edge of the stampeding torrent. In the cold collective survival laws of the Cretaceous, being isolated and stationary usually meant that when the first wave of disaster descended, one's flesh would be ruthlessly torn apart and buried by nature. The psychological choice of the Ankylosaurus in that instant was exceptionally anomalous. It did not join that meaningless, chaotic stampede, but instead watched coldly as the backs of its herd vanished into the depths of the canyon. That resistance to speed etched in its bones appeared so utterly out of place during that moment of crisis and anxiety, yet it held an anomalous majesty. Its eyes, large, deep, and even bearing a touch of refined elegance, closed slightly under the intense glare of lightning, as if perceiving a deeper pulse traveling from the depths of the earth. It understood that blind fear and disorganized fleeing could not secure true redemption within the storms of an era, but would only accelerate the exhaustion of life force. It turned around, trailing its immense tail that resembled a moving long bridge, and walked backward against the direction of the wind, step by step, with extreme slowness into the heart of the forest. With each step, its thick limbs spanning several meters required an extended amount of time to lift and lower. That steady cadence caused even the surrounding panicked airflow to freeze. This was a spontaneous choice to counter the era's circumstances with absolute slowness. It abandoned the illusory safety of the herd, willingly accepting the price to bear alone within the rift of darkness. When the first massive raindrop slapped onto its broad skin with its muted coppery sheen, it had already arrived at that absolutely empty place of silence that belonged solely to it. Deep night completely took over the entire southern valley, gently covering all slaughter and unease with a layer of hazy, indigo-blue mist. The Ankylosaurus stood quietly beside a clear stream carpeted with ancient moss, the moonlight pouring down like a swath of silver-white silk, unreservedly washing over its armor with its muted greenish tone. Its face appeared remarkably stoic and refined, upon this rampaging land of the late Cretaceous, such an expression possessed a near unreal sense of healing. It turned its body slowly, embedding its massive, cumbersome frame into the trickling shallows with immense deliberation and care. Its irregular osteoderms, weathered by the eras, presented the texture of ancient rock beneath the moonlight, covered in natural grooves and crevices. The autumn wind gently brushed the giant trees overhead, and broad, dry, golden leaves began to twirl in the night sky, drifting down slowly like weary butterflies. A wondrous thing occurred in this moment. Those falling leaves did not drop into the cold soil, but settled securely between the rugged ridges of the Ankylosaurus's back. Because it maintained absolute immobility for so long, its back became the final resting place for the falling leaves of the entire forest, those irregular hollows gently catching every single leaf that fell. Before long, several heavy ancient pine cones carrying the scent of resin also thumped onto its back, sliding along the bony slope into one of the warmest depressions. That sound was remarkably faint, yet in the silent night, it sounded exceptionally crisp and reassuring, as if the forest itself were presenting its final tribute to this ancient totem. The Ankylosaurus thoroughly enjoyed this subtle relationship tension established with the plant world. In this pure, deep night, it was neither the prey of predators nor an outcast of the herd. It became a part of this jungle, allowing the falling leaves to layer upon its spine, transforming into a thick blanket of leaves carrying the temperature of life. Listening to this fine sound of leaf fall, you too seem able to cross the time tunnel of tens of millions of years, touching that cool leaf soaked in moonlight, feeling a state of truest relaxation. The night had deepened to the absolute limit, and the flashing stars in the sky were as brilliant as an unextinguishable feast, silently overlooking this strange creature performing its solitary piece. After standing in deep contemplation for dozens of minutes, the Ankylosaurus finally halted its movements beside a giant river boulder in the jungle that still radiated a deep warmth from the daytime sun. It did not rush to close its eyes in slumber. Instead, it extended its long, streamlined neck slightly forward, letting the cool stream water gently kiss its dry lips. Its manner of drinking was exceptionally restrained and slow, each swallow accompanied by a serene rumble originating deep within its throat, as if using this holy spring to purify all internal anxiety. At this moment, its inner state was in a ultimate peace where self and world were both forgotten. Those massive dinosaurs of the outside world were nothing more than an illusion destined to end sooner or later in its eyes. Meanwhile, this continuous stream, this immutable starry sky, and those leaves and pine cones carried upon its own back were the sole eternal realities of its life. It had found its own psychological logic within the long dark night, in an era unsuited to speed, using its own stillness to redefine the span of time. Its limbs sank securely into the wet sand, and its plump yet unbloated abdomen gradually pressed against the warm soil fragrant with vegetation. Its miraculous tail now lay limply upon the shallows at the stream's edge, letting the small waves wash gently against the edges of its bony blunt weapon again and again. Each tidal-like wash left an exceptionally faint ripple upon the sand, a sensation like a hermit of the earth slowly shedding his final defenses. Those small mammals hidden deep within the soil and tree hollows, upon confirming that the regular sound of water had transformed into a steady rumble, also thoroughly abandoned a full day of panic. They curled up together one after another, entering the sweetest and most secure dreamland, because the breathing of the Ankylosaurus was the most reassuring, invisible boundary within this silent valley. This was the blind zone before dawn, the coldest and easiest time to lose one's direction, when the entire world seemed to plunge into an absolute, near-deadly, ethereal dreamscape. The Ankylosaurus resting beside the warm rock had thoroughly entered the deepest layer of sleep, yet that refined and serene aura upon its body had not dissipated in the slightest. Its eyes were tightly closed, its long eyelashes twitching with extreme subtlety in the occasional night breeze, and the scales on its skin reflected a muted, noble texture under the starlight. Its breathing frequency had slowed to the limit, each rise and fall of its chest demanding an immensely long wait, as if maintaining a synchronized rhythm with the pulse of this ancient earth. Wondrously, whenever the gentle breeze of the valley swept across the sand where it rested, the thick layer of leaves accumulated on its back would release an exceptionally soft, highly regular rustling sound. That sound echoed softly in the night sky, transforming into a natural, low-frequency white noise, becoming the warmest and most secure psychological solace in this long night. In this echoing moment that decided fate, the Ankylosaurus thoroughly dissolved the cold evolutionary paradox of the dinosaur world with its body, which appeared rugged yet was lived as poetry. It required no one to understand its value, nor did it need to leave behind any earth-shattering imprints, it merely left the ultimate gentleness and restraint of nature to this dark night. Within this spiritual haven that belongs to it and to you, all misunderstandings, all loneliness, and all the frustrations of the day are dissolved bit by bit in this intertwining of falling leaves and starlight. You only need to allow your consciousness to drift lazily along with that regular rustling sound, which seems both far and near, like lying upon an ancient feather devoid of any gravity. There is no need to think further of tomorrow's hustling and exhaustion, nor any need to feel deep self-blame for the day's constraints. In this peaceful, deep night, slowing down is your very dignity. Close your eyes, and let the steady, secure life field of the Ankylosaurus envelop you thoroughly and gently, carrying you toward the deepest, purest end of sleep. When the absolute edge of the distant horizon began to quietly reveal the first ray of a highly delicate, near-transparent morning light, this long night was finally about to greet its ultimate farewell. The morning mist began to disperse slowly over the jungle like a lingering shroud of gauze, and the massive, gentle frame of the Ankylosaurus gradually revealed its soft silhouette in the dim dawn. The natural magic belonging to the night was quietly dissolving, and the daytime world would soon be harshly dominated once more by brutal competition and endless running. But in these past dozens of minutes, this titan sauropod carrying the forest leaves had carved out an eternal sanctuary for us within the cold, long history of evolution through its life. Using its posture of absolute immobility beneath the night shroud, its back hollows filled with falling leaves and pine cones, and its deliberate paces, it answered all the riddles we posed in the prologue. It left behind no cruel reputation capable of dominating the plains, it merely left nature's ultimate gentleness, restraint, and mastery over time to this ancient earth that embraced its solitude. Now, the voice of the story is fading gradually within this morning breeze, and that memory of the Cretaceous from tens of millions of years ago should return to the depths of the soil and fossils to sleep once more. Yet the peace and certainty left by the Ankylosaurus in the dark night will transform into the gentlest night wind beside your pillow, long and loyally guarding your every sleep. Have no further worries about the unknown. That strange and mild creature will always walk quietly at the edge of your dreamscape, using its leaf-filled spine to shield you from all anxiety and storms. Now, please thoroughly relax your every nerve, allowing the boundless sleepiness to completely and gently submerge you like a warm tide. Within this ancient dreamscape thoroughly healed by the night, sleep peacefully. Good night, in this silent, long night that belongs to you. Good night, and may you possess the sweetest, purest dream.